Immerse in the profound wisdom of the Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, ancient verses, revered as a pinnacle of devotion and spiritual awareness. Under the guidance of His Holiness Swami Jyotirmayananda, plunge into the infinite ocean of this revered scripture. Discover its hidden truths. Embrace its transformative power. Awaken to new realms of divine love and spiritual awareness. The depths are calling. The deeper you dive, the more treasures you'll discover. And now, Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Vasudevasutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om. Adorations to Lord Krishna, the preceptor of the universe, destroyer of the forces of darkness, and bestower of immortality. Shandilya Bhakti Sutras, the sutra number 3. The first sutra was Athato Bhakti Jigyasa. The second sutra defined Sa Paranurakti Ishware. Bhakti is supreme attachment to God. And there is profound implication in the term attachment. And as we go on, you will have more understanding. Third sutra is Tat Sansthasya Amritatvopadeshat. Because the scriptures proclaim that whoever abides in God attains immortality. What's being presented to you, the idea to abide in God. That's what will lead you to become more and more attached. If you abide, continue to abide in God, continue to experience the blossoming of devotion, you will automatically attain immortality. Attainment of immortality is attainment of liberation. To become free of the cycle of birth and death. Two methods are highlighted in the scriptures. The path of devotion and the path of wisdom. Path of wisdom is effective, dynamic, but it is not all-embracing. You can't tell a farmer, a woodcutter, start practicing Brahma Vichar. You are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the senses. World is illusion. But you can start telling the farmer, consider what the work you do is God's work. You are loving, you can love God in your children. Expand your heart. God loves you. And for that, one doesn't need too many explanations. Tell a child, mother loves you. Child doesn't wait until he's reading his whole volume, a book, to understand what it means. So if bhakti has not become a part of your sadhana, you must realize there is something great deficiency in your spiritual movement. Intellectual advancement, the importance of it is nobody denies. But if you don't have bhakti, then your intellect will not be intuitional. It will simply fill your mind with intellectual information. To put it another way, in order to attain God realization, your mind must be free of impurities: anger, greed, hate, egoism. Knowledge, intellectual knowledge, can make you understand that hatred is bad. But it will not give you the tool to control it. Only tool it will give you to develop a false conceit that I have conquered anger. Because I am Brahman, so naturally I have conquered. It is bhakti that is the best detergent for washing away the impurities of the heart, devotion to God. And once the impurities are washed away, liberation comes automatically. Therefore the saying, Mukti bhakti ki dasi hai. If you have the queen, you don't worry about the maidservant. Bhakti is the queen. So once developed bhakti, mukti, liberation will come automatically. You never have to be thinking about how long will I be loving, when will I attain liberation. Love of God is so intensely engrossing, the question of when and how doesn't arise. Also, you have to understand that between the two, bhakti and jnana, there is no conflict. When jnana, or when we say knowledge, if you interpret knowledge only in the terms of intellectual knowledge, then there is a conflict. Intellectual knowledge can be very clear, and you can recite the Upanishad, you can explain the passages, and you may not have that quality of devotion to God. Therefore, in your mind there will be ego, big ego. And you will not even understand that you have a big obstacle. So the sutra says in the third sutra, Tat sansthasya amritatvopadeshat, because the scriptures proclaim that whoever abides in God attains immortality. Abiding in God is most important. And in the Gita, and Krishna says that those people who have developed divine qualities, they abide in me. And I abide in them. Krishna does not state in a direct way that those who have studied Vedanta, practiced listening, reflection, meditation, they abide in me, or they realize me. In other words, between the two methods, devotion is natural, instinctive. There is natural instinct to love. There is natural instinct to know also, but the knowledge requires a special discipline, a special effort. And you may not attain intuitional knowledge unless you have developed devotion in your heart. Whoever abides in God, think of in a poetic way, whoever has developed divine qualities, Krishna says that devotee abides in me. Upanishadic statement, Brahma sanstho amritatvameti, one who is fully established in Brahman. Brahman is God. One who fully abides in God attains immortality. Now, to explain what we mean by abiding in God, the next sutra says, Jnanamiti chet na dvishatopi jnanasya tad sansthitet. If it be said that abiding in God implies attaining knowledge of God, we say no. If you have knowledge of God, that doesn't mean you abide in God. Try to resolve the riddle. If you have the knowledge that God is the cosmic destroyer, He dissolves the entire world. Once you have that knowledge, will you like to abide in Him? If you were to know that God is at the back of all the negative things that go on, the wars, famine, big turmoils, hurricanes, earthquakes, will you abide in Him? If you know a person has negative qualities and the person arouses in your mind sentiment of hate, the idea of abiding in the heart of that person is no. All this, the drift of all this is there. That sheer intellectual knowledge doesn't remove hatred. Knowing even goodness of a person doesn't imply that you have become very close to the person and you love the person. The path of knowledge requires many subtle preparations. But the path of devotion is open for everyone. Qualifications are not asked about. Everyone has instinctive nature to love. Now, all that he does, he allows that instinctive love to unfold. Every mother has self-sacrificing love for a child. Can you imagine one day that heart that has developed that love were to expand and become cosmic? And there isn't a creature whom you don't love if one were to develop cosmic love. That's the climax of devotional movement. At every stage, experience of love gives you something profound. Nothing like it. That's why people practice self-effacement and sacrifice themselves in the name of love. Of course, mother's love is very easy to understand. Now, the role of hate. Knowledge cannot remove hate. Intellectual knowledge cannot remove hate. It can prepare you. For example, you complain that I hate someone. I can't even have a look of the person. The knowledge is the same self dwells in that person. So try to think of it. And therefore, develop a mind free of hate. You will find it very difficult. But step up to another level, say God dwells in that person. It's God who is manipulating the person to be hateful. If your attention turns to God, now you have known the secret of abiding in God. The simple message behind it, do not ignore bhakti, devotion. Devotion secures your spiritual movement. With the devotion progressing within you, your reason turns into intuition. Yasya deve para bhakti, yatha deve tatha guru. The Upanishad says, he who has supreme devotion to God and likewise to Guru, for him the scripture opens the revelation, I am Brahman. is another subtle confusion when you study scriptures. Scriptures speak of vari bhakti. Vari bhakti means you develop a hatred of God. And hatred is so intense that you can't think of anything else. Who can do it? The Rakshasas do it. They are opposed to love. So the scriptures speak of the demons attaining liberation because they developed vari bhakti. People take it literally. These are all highly mystical, never to be taken literally. It has not no meaning at all literal. Why it is being said? Firstly, because the negative qualities in you are the demons, the demoniac forces within you. And if you were to move towards God, a divine battle sets in. The demoniac qualities are destroyed. But when God's hand destroys a demoniac quality, if God's hand squeezes the throat of anger, love emerges. If his chakra destroys pride, humility emerges. So that's what you read in the scriptures. Each time Krishna hurls a weapon and the demon is destroyed, but instead of demon's soul going to hell after all the negative things the demon had done, what happens? A light flashes and bows to Krishna and enters in. And people say, how blessed is this demon? Should the message be, therefore be demoniac? The message is called negative advertisement. If people can attain liberation even with a hatred, imagine how much it will be easy if you have love. Another, coming to more practical level, when you deal with people around you and hatred begins to develop, misunderstanding, so many things, because you must realize this entire world process is like a big hospital. You wouldn't be here unless you are sick. or you are doctors or nurses. Saintly people are doctors. Devotees, many people, good people are nurses. But the majority of the world is a big hospital. Everything that people do, see, physical disabilities, everybody is compassionate about. If someone broken leg, very compassionate. If someone breaks his tongue, speaks bad language, nobody is compassionate. But that person needs more compassion because subtle nerves of the brain, subtle brain tissues have been affected. It is a greater damage the person is suffering from. But all that you hear, oh, sharp words. To me, how dare? What happens to human compassion? Therefore, the saintly saying of Kabira, जो तो को कांटा बुए tahi boi tu phool. Those who come to sow thorns in your garden, thorns for you so that you can get easily scratched and pinched and so forth, as a revenge, sow flowers, especially flowers that have no thorns. Soft to walk on, fragrant and beautiful. तो को फूल के फूल है. What will happen in your life? Flowers will emerge, manifest everywhere. You will find peaceful atmosphere. Wako hai Tirshul. Shiva's three-pronged instrument is going after the neck of the one who sowed thorns for you. Is that delightful? If it is delightful, you have not understood. The subtler point is that person who tried to cause harm to you by sowing thorn, and if instead of revenging, you acted in a divine way, then a transformation will occur in that person. I'm leading you to a little higher level of understanding. This disease of the world process has three aspects. It's what I call triad. Drashta, Drishya and Darshan. Drashta, subject. You view yourself as what you view yourself in practical way, your identity. The identity that you show to airports and everywhere, that identity of yours. That identity is not real you. Your soul has moved through many identities. So Trishul goes, one prong of the Trishul knocks into your concept of your identity. You begin to realize even a very wicked person and very sinful person begins to realize there is that loving presence within me which will wash away, forgive, ignore all my sins. Sakrideva prapannaya tavasmiti chavachate. Ramayana saying, if anyone, this is Rama's words, Vibhishana goes to seek refuge in Rama's presence. And Rama says, whoever comes to me, no matter how sinful a person might have been, saying, O Lord, I have come to take refuge in you. Rama says, I have taken a vow. Whoever comes, I will guarantee abhaya, fearlessness. I will take him under my care. So that's the first Trishul does. First prong. The Trishul has three. The next one goes after the world you are experiencing. The world you are experiencing is Maya. It is never real. It's not something to believe in. It's purely scientific. All things that seem real to you, they are in relation to the way your senses have been formed. Change the eye lenses, change the hearing mechanism, change the brain centers a little, and try to see how does the world look like. Can't even imagine. Now therefore, when the Trishul goes, this world, in your mind, you begin to see this world is a Leela of God. You don't have to work hard to understand what it is, but you know it is. You look at the sky, you don't try to understand how vast it is, etc. You simply, there is a wondrous presence of divine glory in the form of the sky. This wondrous presence of the world before you. And that's all that counts. So you have changed by one trishul has three prongs, you see. One prong has changed your identity. Another prong changed the identity of the world. Third prong, your day-to-day experience. The illusory you interacting with the illusory world. What can it produce? Nothing but illusion. Darshta, darshan and drishya. All the three undergo change as your mind turns towards God. As you learn the art of combating anger by love, violence by non-violence, as you learn that art, you are making a difference in three ways. Naturally, the difference is much more effective within yourself. Doer of an act of love experiences that change in his identity. He is no longer ordinary person, you are a ray of God. You abide in God. God has held you by 1,000 arms. So a mother can't be very secure, she has only 2 arms. And you abide in God. And the world that you experience is His Leela. It is the Devi playing all those parts. So it's a wonderful entertainment. So all the three that go on hurting a person, threefold illusions in you, they are fading away into threefold experience of divine presence, glory of God. And what happens to the enemy? 3 nails have got it, removing threefold illusion in them. Sounds like a great revenge. Enjoy it. That's the best revenge you can experience. Is the world today ready for it? But that's the reality of things until the world is ready for it. Or to whatever extent you turn towards it, to that extent there is a real civilization, real humanity. If not, all progress is zero. No one here is to be hated. Try to understand how can you combat against their hatred, their negativity. Not by creating negativity in yourself. If someone raises his temperature in anger 99 degrees, you raise yourself to 102 degrees. That's not great entertainment. Tayo pakshayacha, 5th. And the reason is that the efficacy of knowledge is lesser than of devotion. Here knowledge referring to intellectual knowledge. Intellectually, if you try to handle acts of animosity, you will not succeed until your heart begins to understand it in a profound way. That's something very practical. That doesn't mean you ignore intellectual knowledge. But don't be satisfied just by possessing intellectual knowledge. It's superior to that intellectual knowledge to have that deep feeling. If it comes to evaluate reason and faith. Faith rises high in a higher level. Reason is a baby. It has to be guided by faith until it grows up and gets wings. Then it becomes intuitional. But when you have faith, it's like a jar of water. It begins to reflect the sky, reflect the sun. Your heart has the ability to reflect the majesty of divine presence, but it cannot describe it. Ask the jar or the water to describe it, how it all happens. That's beyond the scope. Nevertheless, the intellect in you can, as you go on exercising your intellect, go on studying scriptures, your intellect goes on grasping what your faith has already shown to you. I'm talking about real faith, not blind faith, rajasic faith, tamasic faith, real pure faith. And that faith emerges as you practice sadhana, enjoy satsang, good association, go on practicing integral yoga in day-to-day life. There develops profound faith. Faith has entered and you have any experience of it, your life becomes very easy. Easy doesn't mean that difficulty doesn't come. It will come more than before. But your faith will enable you to cross over them. Countless clouds can surge in the sky. The moon emerges out of them, no matter how dark the clouds. And each time moon emerges out of a dark cloud, it shines brighter than before. Look at people. Everyone has faced adversity. Life is filled with challenges. And look at people who are very proud and they write wonderful autobiographies about themselves. Why do they do so? Because they faced adversity. If they didn't, there's nothing to write about. In other words, power of faith that needs to be developed, and that requires sadhana. Sadhana focused on japa, repeating mantras, learning the art of reciting stotras, prayers. Every religion has created a path, a mystical path. And if you follow it, faith begins to develop within you. Faith gives you a strength. The Raj Yoga says, Shraddha, Virya. A type of strength that is not physical. Strength that is spiritual strength. A strength that you can share. Through your blessings, you can send to people far away, as well as experience that strength operating within you. And as strength develops, Shraddha, Virya, Smriti, your memory, there is a mystical recollection. Normally your mind recollects things you have experienced in this life. All the recollections are based upon your nervous system. But there are experiences from past life for which there is no basis, there is no nervous connection with your past embodiment. The connection is subtle, the mind. So as your faith advances and spiritual energy develops, it dawns upon you that you are eternal soul. You have passed through all lives. The details of lives and what happened, that's neither here nor there. But you are not confined to this body. The end of the body is not the end of you. That becomes very clear. That's called smriti. Therefore, a great horizon of optimism develops within you, positivity. And no matter how things go, one thing is secure: God's support. And for God, nothing is impossible. And God is the ultimate goal. And you are constantly sustained by His presence. And if you step up beyond, there is nothing but the divine within you. So, leading you to the sequence: faith, spiritual strength, a divine recollection. That gives you access to samadhi. Samadhi, superconsciousness. Superconsciousness, generally people identify with a person who is seated in a pose and suddenly he has become absolutely like a painted picture. That's samadhi, no doubt, but that is not the samadhi. Samadhi is that spontaneous awareness at all times. An awareness: I am not the body. I am not the limited personality. I am that. Again, when I am describing it, these are the words. But just like you are aware of yourself from morning till night, and that awareness doesn't mean that each time you sit, you are reflecting. I am the body, I am my hands, I am my feet. It's spontaneous. Similarly, the awareness, I am Brahman, doesn't require to be verbalized. It becomes a profound, natural awareness. You are always beyond the confines of your nerves, beyond the confines of your limited mind. That samadhi leads to prajna. Prajna means intuitional intellect. Intellect that emerges out of ordinary mind, that intellect is intellectual intellect. But intellect that has passed through these stages, when there is Shraddha, faith, intellect now, touched by faith, intellect has become very powerful movement. The next stage, it is endowed with strength. So not only you know, you attain it. Whatever you know, you try to attain it. If you know the heights, you want to climb it. Climb the heights. So you have a strength. And then there is a recollection, there is an awareness. The sources within you are boundless. And then there is drunkenness. You are never the same individual personality. Half drunk or maybe full drunk. Spiritual intoxication. Now at this stage, your intellect has become intuitional. It is, you described it, para-bhakti, supreme devotion, or describe it, supreme knowledge. It's a state of enlightenment. And with this we conclude.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of spiritual growth. It's an honor to learn from the wisdom of Swami Jyotirmayananda. As we part for now, remember, the quest does not end. Take time to reflect on today's insights and integrate them into your life. Until next time, stay open, stay curious, stay present. The light within you is always shining.